Hi everyone. In previous videos, we have seen how we create workflows with state graphs. It is obvious that such graphs are usually used when having a structured workflow to work with. But what if there were some cases and there is actually no structured workflow? Within such scenarios, reasoning and acting becomes a more suitable solution. That's where LangGraph's process create ReAct agent is usually targeted or is usually utilized. So with the create React agent, you can think about it as a method that is used to simplify the process of building agents that combines reasoning and acting capabilities. What does that mean? That basically means that the agent would try to understand the query or the prompt, the user message, and then act based on that. So when you have a very structured workflow, then state graphs would be preferable from my perspective. But when you have really no clear pathways or no clear paths to the next nodes and what node to execute next, and you want to rely solely on the model, that's where such a functionality would be used or becomes useful. In this video, what I will do is that I will quickly highlight the attributes, the parameters of this process. And then, as usual, we go into showing or into illustrating its usage with an example. Let's talk about create React agent. Let's see its attributes and see additional or other functionalities or processes that might be useful when building such an agent. Starting by talking about the create React agent, we will have the LangGraph, and with LangGraph we have the pre-built module, and within the pre-built module we have create React agent. With the create React agent, the model is mandatory, and that is the LLM. Another aspect or another attribute is the tools, which is a list of the tools. Then we will talk about the optional parameters which might be useful. The first one from my perspective is the state schema. So it's state underscore schema. And this is an optional parameter. But if you define it yourself, you need to add a few attributes in order to be able to utilize such a class. For example, one of the main ones is messages. So messages is important. The second one is a variable called is last step, and it is imported from another LangGraph module, and that module is called managed. So if let's move and move a bit down there and write it in another color. So if we have here within LangGraph, we have the module which is called managed, and within it there are certain functionalities. One of them is last step. So in order to be able to do our own schema, what you need to do is that you have to have this one as being imported from is last step. Another parameter that will not putting it in the custom state will lead to a problem or to raise a value error is remaining steps. So it will be remaining. Let's close steps. And similarly, remaining steps is a module or is a class with managed. So it will be another functionality. It is remaining steps. So remaining steps is used to avoid infinite loops. It is more for monitoring, and is last step indicates if the current execution step is actually the final one in the workflow. Having a custom state is optional, but it is used to handle the behavior of the model. And as I said, since it is optional, if you do not define it, it will be defaulted to the agent state in pre-built. So here is another class here. It is the agent state. And agent state would actually contain the required parameters, which we spoke about here and here and here. Okay, so now we spoke about the custom state. Let's talk about if you want to add the memory or if you want to enable checkpointers. That is actually possible within the React agent. But first, let me talk. I think you have seen that in the previous videos. But first, in order to be able to do this, we will go to LangGraph. And from LangGraph, we have the checkpoint module. And we have the memory. And within memory in here, let's assume we are using an in-memory saver. That itself, there is an optional parameter with the create React agent. That parameter is the checkpointer. Checkpointers allow retrieving and storing data or information during the execution of the agent. You can think about it as a memory, so it starts to remember and to simplify it. There are different types. One of them is the in-memory saver, there is the SQLite saver, and there is the Postgres saver. Another important aspect that I found actually myself pretty useful is the response. Is you can basically within the create React agent, you can structure the response similar to the output passes in the prompts and so on. So I'm finding some similarities here and there. You'll be first using or handling the response. It will be in the response underscore format. With the response format, you will be able to pass, or you'll be able to ask for a specific structure of the output. That becomes super useful sometimes. With that in mind, you can retrieve JSON schemas, bidentic classes, and other types like type dictionary. To finalize with, we need to add a new variable to the state schema if we ended up deciding to use the response format. There are additional useful parameters in here like the store and so on. You feel free to visit and check yourself. You can see that some parameters are required, other parameters are optional. It's looking a bit crowded as we did in the previous tutorials. Let's jump into the code and do the exercise together. You have seen in previous sections that we highlighted the main attributes and parameters within Create React Agent. Now let's delve into the code and let's start handling or let's start doing the exercise. On the left hand side, there will be the editor where I'll be copying and pasting the code. And on the right side, it will be the console where you will see the outputs and the results. Starting with create React agent, we all on the same page that we need to have two main components. The first one is the model, the second one is the tools. First, let's go and get the React agent itself, the process. Then, as I mentioned, let's get the model itself. So in here, you can see I'm using Chat OpenAI. I'm using OpenAI models. I'm using OpenAI secret APIs. So this is the libraries. These are the libraries that will be required to utilize that. However, you feel free to use any yourself. You can use the other integration packages. At the same time, if you are running something locally via Olama or something like that, or in a cluster, you can utilize that yourself. The other core component is tools. So I will be putting here the required libraries to utilize tools. Within this exercise, I'll be having three main tools. The first one is to do an object detection. The second one is to do business name generation, a generator for business names. The last one is validation of the business name. Let's start getting the tools. The first one is detect vehicle. So let me create more space in here. And with detect vehicle, it takes the image path. I don't have a graphical user interface within this example, so just for the purpose of the tutorial or the exercise, I'm putting the image path in the prompt. However, there could be some scenarios where you will upload the image and allow that to uh, be executed using the image itself. You can see here the documentation. This kind of documentation is actually helpful for the model or helpful for the model to understand which function to get. As I said, we have three tools. This is the first one. I will get the second one, which is the generate business name. With the generate business name, actually just for the purpose of the tutorial, I'm just saying the suggested business name is LangGraph, return it back to me. And the third one is validation. I'll put it here. And within this, I'm not targeting a database for validation, nor I'm sending a request to an API for validation, checking quickly in a list. And if the business name is not an agent or LangChain or MCP, just return that it is available. Talking about the prompt, which is an optional parameter, I'm using chat prompt template, and this is the system message, and the placeholder is going to be the messages. So within the prompt itself, we have to put the variable messages. But if you don't know what's the placeholder, check the previous videos, and there will be a separate section designated to highlight the importance of such an attribute. Now wrapping up things, the tools, a list of the tools available to the model, initiating the model as a GPT-4o, and now we will create the React agent. After doing that, I will have just a small prompt or a small input to the model, which says, what's today's date? I'm putting this in purpose. I will show you that later. Give me a suggestion of the business name. Let me run this now. So this is the prompts, this is the graph, and so on. Let's try to do streaming. So let's target the actual graph that we built. I'm doing streaming here. I'm not invoking the model. So you will see here, that's the question from the human. And based on the prompt, the model knew that it has to run generate business name. And you can see it said, as a response to my query, today's date is 1st of November 2023, and the suggested business name is LangGraph because it ran that function itself. As I said, in purpose, I said this. So let me show you how a custom state would change the behavior of the response from the model. What I will be doing is that I'll be telling the model today's date and see how the response is generated. I've cleaned the console myself, and what I'll be doing now is getting the functionalities required to run the custom state or to initiate the custom state. That would require having those classes that we spoke about. I'll put it as number 4 here, which is last step, a key component, remaining steps, add messages, and so on. Let me add now the custom state, and I will give a definition for it, because I also need to get the type dict from typing extensions. So let me import that. I'll put it the last one. And you can see here, messages is required is last step and remaining steps. And I basically introduce myself this variable to change the behavior of the response of the model. So to do that, I will be adding it to the system message, saying like, for example, today is today. Let me wrap up that with the brackets. And now with the prompt, I'll be putting in here September, for example, September 9, 2014. And before forgetting, I will need to pass by the optional parameter state underscore schema equal to custom state. Running that again now. While that's happening, ensuring there is no errors in the code. Okay, let me do a streaming. Let me stream the model. So you can see it still did generate business name, use the generate business name, but what's happening is that the response about the date is different. Let's talk a bit now about the checkpointers. To highlight why we use it, what I will be doing is I will copy the same prompt, paste it here, but instead of putting, I would like to say, can you please check for me if it is available. So in here, we assume that we want to check if LangGraph is available. Then I will stream the model itself, the model again, to see what will be the response. And what is the model responding? Can you please provide the business name that you would like me to check? So as you can see, what was happening is that the model did not remember the previous state in order to know that LangChain or LangGraph was actually suggested, and we want to check if it's available. We will handle this by adding checkpointers. To add the checkpointers, first let's import the required libraries. First it will be step number 5. I'll put it here. And you can see here I'm using in-memory saver, however there are database savers and so on. What will be done is that we need to initiate a class or initiate an instance of this class with the checkpointer. I'll put it nearby the prompt because I feel it's somehow similar or somehow related, sorry, because you need to pass it by when invoking or when streaming the LLM, the agent. So as it is an optional parameter in here, we'll put it. And now, as I said, because we have checkpointers next to the inputs, what we will be doing is that we will be passing by config files to a configuration dictionary, which contains the thread when streaming. So from now on, when we do the streaming, we will include a configuration too. Let me first run it. Once we ran it, I will stream it. But as I said in here, from now on, we'll be doing config. And it's going to be the same example. But let's do the previous one, which is doing this. Can you please check for me if it's available? Oops. And then we will stream it again. So we will run it again. And you can see the real difference in here compared to what you have seen. What has happened is that the model knew about that it generated that LangGraph, and it selected now validate business name and checked that LangGraph is available, and it was actually available because it wasn't found in this list. Here is the list. So this highlights two optional parameters that actually ends up being useful in most of the cases when utilizing React agents. Let me show you so far how the graph would look like. It's still an agent, tools, and end. Now what we will be doing is that we will be trying to extend the functionalities of the model to pass the output, and we'll do this exercise similarly together. So let's assume now I want to pass the output. I'll be having a new class, but in order to be able to utilize this class, it will be a pydantic class as we have seen in the previous section. So it will be from pydantic. So what we will be doing, this is the class itself. And as I mentioned, when we want to structure the output, we need to include a new parameter with the custom state, and that parameter is called structured response. So I will be getting that one myself, and then I will be putting it, let's put it the last one. And its definition is required. Let's put it here just to required when using a structured response. Putting this here, and then we need to add we need to add that to the create React agent. So we'll go here, and in here it will be this parameter response format. Because it's going to be done, or it's going to be used for with the YOLO model, let me have the query, or let me have the prompt as something to extract the bounds from, change this one to be extracting the bounding box. And you can see I'm passing by the path to the image in here myself. And I will just remove the question mark too. And then I'll run that again after restarting the kernel. Let me restart the kernel because we introduced a new graph. So running it. And now trying to stream the graph, the execution. But before doing this, let me show you something. You can see now what will happen is that there will be another node that is generate structured response within the graph. Just by adding these things, what's good about Create React Agent is that it takes into consideration these things in the backend. So if I open the code, you will see details about such a node and so on. So streaming the graph, it's detecting this and running this, and you can see what it did is that it returned this to me. Let's check in the graph state. What's the value of the structured response? And you can see it's actually a pydantic, like an instance of a pydantic class over there with the details being passed to what we are after. This kind of attributes and parameters is really helpful and allows to extend the functionalities, especially when using the create React agent. I think we are done for now, highlighting the importance of such parameters. Um, you can see that these functionalities, you can think yourself on how these functionalities allow you to extend or to handle the problems that you are facing within your workspace or within your project. And good luck with using that.